All right, so as we continue on with the bench press, we're going to go through this methodically just like we did for the squat. Now, I want to cover a number of things with this as well. First, I want to start with getting yourself into a stronger position as opposed to the bench press that you'll typically see in the gym. Then, I want to go through the setup. After we figure out kind of the arch that we should have in our back and the retraction of our shoulder blades, we'll go through the setup to actually get onto the bench press. Then, of course, we'll go through the execution of the lift. Finally, there's some minor points that we really should get down. Those include lifting the bar off the rack. I know that sounds trivial, but you can actually put yourself in a mechanical advantage to help get the bar off the rack better when you're at a heavier load. The next thing is when we go to look at our foot position. The bench, as we're going to see, is a total body lift. You're going to be driving through the floor and driving your upper back into the bench just as you're pushing the bar away from you. So let's cover all of those things. So the first thing that we want to do is put ourselves in a stronger position. So if we can see, if we have a regular bench press and we have a flat back and my arms are straight, take a look at this distance, right? So keep that distance in mind. Now, if I'm going to brace, I'm going to retract my shoulder blades, get this arch in my back, and now the motion, you should notice, is shorter. So that's here, and now when I let this arch out, you can see the motion is elongated. Short, correct motion, strong position, elongated position. So think how much of a stronger position this is, right? If we're thinking about breathing on a squat, I always like to look at things logically. The reason that we breathe into our gut, if your car breaks down on the side of the road, how are you going to push that car? Well, the first thing that you're going to do is call Eric Helms. Once you realize he's not strong enough to push the car, you're going to push it yourself. So you're going to take a big breath, and you're going to push that car. Just like when you squat or bench press, you take a big breath. That's why we're breathing. So when we come back to the bench press, think about it. When you want to put yourself in a stronger position, you're going to retract as if you were bracing for somebody to punch you. If you knew that punch was coming, you wouldn't stand like this. Rather, you would stand braced to be able to absorb that blow. So, again, not bracing, not retracting your shoulder blades, not arching your back. Distance, now doing that. Distance. You're in a much stronger position. The last thing to look at when we're doing this is the rotation of the rotator cuff. Some people might say, I hurt my rotator cuff when I bench press. Well, here's why. Their back is flat. Look at that rotation. Now, when we're in the position that we should be in, take a look. That rotation is much less. They can perform that movement much more safely. So, now let's go to the bench as we know this. The first thing is I want to show you how the totality of this movement should look. Then, we'll go through how I got into the setup. Similar with what we did with the squat setup. We set up first, saw that we had a plan, then we talked through it. Let's do it. So hopefully, just as last time on the squat, you can see that we have a plan. You can see, hopefully, if you're looking from the side view, the space underneath my back, you should be able to see to the other side of the gym. If you can do that, that means I had a decent arch in my back. And the level of arch is going to be different for everybody depending on flexibility. So, how do we get in that position? Well, there's a few ways to get here. When we set up on the deadlift, we're going to teach one specific way. But we're also going to say we don't care how you get to the starting position as long as you get to the starting position. If you have a different way that gets you there or a different way that you like to teach to your clients, that's okay. The point is that you get to the starting position. So here's how I like to set up for bench press. Well, the first thing that I like to do is set my feet. Why do I set my feet first and then just have little movement in the feet afterwards? The reason being is once you lay down, you can't see your feet. So I like to make sure they're as symmetrical as they can be while I can see them. So I'm on the end of the bench, and then I'm putting my feet here, and I have my toes kind of in line with the end of the bench. Now at this point, they're pretty symmetrical. They will move a little bit later on, but if I see where they are at first and they move just a little bit, that helps me keep them as symmetrical as possible. From here, as I lay back, I try to start beginning my arch. I'll grab a little bit of the bar, I'll be in my arch somewhat, I'll pinch my shoulder blades as you can see, and then I'll use the bar as a force so I can now push myself back on the bench, get that arch. I'm here. Now my feet are still symmetrical. Now I back them up a little bit to where they need to be. Now once I'm here, right? Once you moved your feet back, you didn't move your butt since you were already down on the bench. Now you should be able to come back just a little more. Once you can get your feet back just a little more. Now we're in good position. From here, I want to lift the bar off the rack. Or if I do that and I push straight up, I'll come untucked, if you will. I'll exaggerate it. You can see me lose that arch. Obviously, you don't want to do that. So we'll get back in the arch. So to lift the bar off the rack, your butt must stay on the bench during the lift. However, it doesn't have to on the lift off. So what can you do more weight on, a bench press or a decline bench press? A decline bench press because you're in a better mechanical advantage position. So to have a better mechanical advantage position, that means the length of the force arm is greater than the length of the resistance arm. That's the case on a decline bench. So we bring our glutes off the bench. Now we're in a decline. That allows me to pull the bar off the rack so I don't lose my arch. Then I set my butt back down, I'm in my position, and then I begin the lift. Eccentric, pause, concentric. When I'm touching the bar to my chest, I'm touching at about the xiphoid process, which is the bottom of my sternum. Up. On the way down, I'm doing a few things. I'm pulling the bar apart or trying to break the bar, similar to what we did with the bar in the back. Again, I'm not strong enough to do that yet, but hopefully by the time we do the deadlift. So I pull that bar apart and up. For your elbows, you don't want them too flared, but you don't need them tucked in too much, right? So as you pull the bar apart, you're going to squeeze your pinkies. That should cause your elbows to narrow just a little bit, have them in the right position, and finish locking out the lift. In a moment, we'll do another look at the full bench press. Now, when we do another look at the full bench press, we're going to talk more about leg drive, and we're going to talk more about driving into the bench. But one, I needed a break. I'm not that strong. And two, right, I wanted to just recap everything that we've done so far and then look at foot position as well. So remember, we set our feet first. Again, we want to keep them as symmetrical as we possibly can. They're never going to be perfectly symmetrical, especially since you can't see them once you lay down again. But if you have a problem with your butt coming off the bench, again, during the lift, it can come off on the lift off, then you'll need your arms straight and you need to set your butt down before you can receive a start command from the head referee. But on foot position, if you're having trouble with your butt coming off the bench during the lift, an easy fix for this is to move your feet out. Let's take a look. So I'll set my feet first. I'll get into this position. I'll use the barbell to get me here. Bring my feet here. Now the next thing, I bring my butt back again. That allows me to bring my feet back. Now let's say during the lift, and again, for teaching purposes, I'll exaggerate. Let's say my butt comes off. From the lateral view, you can see it. However, now let me move my feet out. I promise you, I'm trying to lift my butt off the bench, and I simply can't do it. When your feet are out, it's not going to allow you to do that. That's a very easy fix if you have that problem. Now, before we set up on the bench for the final time, let's discuss through what we meant previously by leg drive and then driving into the bench. So there's really multiple forces at play. It's not just a chest exercise. Certainly that's going to get the best development from a hypertrophy standpoint. But from a strength standpoint, you need to learn how to activate throughout the totality of the body to utilize this movement. So when we're driving into the bench, as you can see, we're sliding back. So you're going to drive through your heels, and you're almost going to try to slide backward on the bench, as if you're trying to push yourself back through. Obviously, you're not going to do that. But as you're doing that, that's distributing the weight to your upper back. So when you have that arch, your weight, you're driving into the bench. Now you have two forces. Instead of, right, just pushing the bar away from you, you have this force of also pushing yourself away from the bar. So it's two forces in one that are going against each other. So let's take a look and let's talk through it now as we're doing it on the bench press, even though you can't really see it while we're doing it. So we'll set up everything that we've discussed previously. Now from here, I take a big breath. If you notice one thing I do when I take a big breath, you should be able to see my chest if you're looking from both views. Reach the bar a little bit more. Now I'll drive my feet, and I'll drive into the bench. Watch when I breathe. And that last breath helps to shorten the range of motion ever so slightly, right? That might not be a huge deal at first, but as you're in competition, it could help you with that last 2.5 kilos. It could help you for placing in a competition. So even the bench press is a skill. The squat and deadlift, we can get a little bit more technical, but make no mistake about it. The bench press is also a technical lift and requires a lot of skill to perform. So the very, very last thing that we're going to do as we set up, Dr. Helms is going to come up once again, and he's going to give us the commands. The commands for bench press, there are 3. Start, press, and rack. We're going to do this 2 times. The reason that we're going to do it 2 times is because to receive a press command, the bar must be motionless. Don't confuse that with a 1-second pause or a 2-second pause. The rule is motionless. So the sooner you get the bar motionless, the sooner you'll get a press command. If you keep the bar in your chest and you haven't received the press command in 2 seconds, that means most likely that the bar is simply not motionless. It's not touching your chest and holding it there and moving it around. It's motionless. So get it motionless as soon and as fast as you possibly can. The first time, I'm going to do it motionless, and you'll see me get a quick press command. The second time, I'll have it on my chest. I'll exaggerate it as always for teaching purposes, but you'll see the bar move around or oscillate a little bit, and I won't receive a press command until I finally get the bar motionless. So again, Dr. Helms will tell me when the bar is loaded. Once the bar is loaded, I'll have 1 minute until I receive that start command. And also, I won't receive a start command until my arms are fully locked. If you unrack the bench press and your arms here are bent, you won't receive it until your arms are here. Eric, let me know when the bar is loaded.
Bar is loaded.
It is true, because this would be my first attempt in a meet.
Start. Press. Rack.
If you notice, that was a quick press command because I got the bar motionless quickly. Now, let's take another look when you might have a long press command.
Start. Press. Rack.
Again, exaggerated for teaching purposes, but oftentimes the lifter will complain because they think they received a long press command. That could be the case at times, but it is also more likely the case that they simply didn't get it motionless and they were counting for a 1-second pause. That's misconstrued a lot. It's not a length of time, it's just simply having the bar motionless. And again, we will touch on this in Unit 10. However, if you think you've received a bad call from the referees, it's possible that you have, but most likely you should take responsibility. I know I have at times and I was frustrated in the moment, but ultimately I took responsibility. Don't leave it in the judges' hands. If you execute everything right on your end, more times than not, you will be in good shape. The judges have a tough job. It's your responsibility as a lifter to execute the lift the best you can to take it out of their hands. And if you do think you better get a bad call, don't complain. Come back the next time, make the adjustments, respect the judges, respect the sport, and do it better. See you in just a bit. Talk about the deadlift.